Hi, everyone. This is Jonathan. I'm your host for our first episode with CSPN. Right now, we've got, I just realized my AirPods are now at 10%. Great way to start. So I'm one of the admins, and I'm also the host of this show. Right here, I've also got Brad, also known as Hans, as you might see through our CSPN group. He's another admin. And along with Brad and myself, we've got Ben, and Ben's one of our moderators. So we've got a few things to talk about today. This is our first episode, so bear with us. It's probably not going to be perfect, but practice makes perfect. So eventually we'll get to that. So yeah, we've got a few different topics. Let's start off with Ben. Tell me a bit about yourself and sort of your experience and what you've done in security, how long, and sort of just a little bit about yourself. Maybe your favorite kind of flower also, and I'm going to stop talking. But tell us about the flowers.
Thank you, John. Yeah, not much of a flower person. Been doing security for about 17 years. Mostly in uniform, but a bit of loss prevention, a bit of surveillance work, and a tiny bit of close protection. But my real passion is teaching. So use of force, control the bleed, stop the bleed, whatever you want to call it, de-escalation, and then my martial arts stuff in the other non-security realm of things.
That's great.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I can tell you right now, Ben's one of the most knowledgeable people I know in terms of laws, and you know, he can talk my ear off for days when it comes to certain laws and different acts and stuff. So it's great to have Ben here. Next, we've got Brad / Hans. He might do, if we're lucky, his famous German impression. We'll see. So Brad.
Guten
yeah, guten Tag. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Brad. I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I've worked both on the public and private side of things, doing private security, as well as working a few different aspects of law enforcement at a few different levels of government, from federal right down to municipal. I, like Ben, I have a few different certificates in instructional things. I teach handcuffing, use of force baton, first aid, stop the bleed, as well as the CPO program through the IFPO. I guess to say my specialty would be more on the public safety, community safety side of things. Spent some time working with the Toronto Police Service. And most of my experience has been out in frontline, working in uniform. So, yeah.
That's great. It's great to have you with us. And lastly, my name is Jonathan. No worries. Lastly, my name is Jonathan. I've been in the security / protective services industry for about 8 years. Almost half of it has been loss prevention. So I've been doing everything from mobile patrol to, you know, residential sort of private housing type security, loss prevention, malls, so including some management as well. So I like to think I have a lot to bring to the table as well, along with both Ben and Brad. Right now, I'm probably the only person in this show right now that is not a use of force instructor. I do instruct the Stop the Bleed course, and that's it. But I do come with a lot of experience. Most of my experience is simply just I started security as a very bad guard. I've made so many mistakes, and I've learned from them all. And my job here, and the reason why we created CSPN, is to sort of take our experiences and, I guess some of us have made mistakes, including myself, and sort of, take the lessons from that so you can learn those experiences, those lessons, hopefully without making the same mistake. Yeah, so that's what that's the three of us. We do have 2 other admins as well. They're not on the show today. Hopefully we'll get them on at some point, not today, but at some point. So right now we're gonna start with talking about sort of a few things, actually just one thing today that I've noticed that has sort of been happening in the security industry. It's a pretty large buyout. Allied Universal recently bought out G4S. I'm sure a lot of us know G4S as being probably one of the largest security companies in the world. I can't think of anyone that works in the security industry that doesn't know who G4S is. As for Allied Universal, first thing I thought was, who the heck are they? I'm sure some, maybe Brad or Ben already know of them, but I sure didn't. I've heard of them a bit, sort of, but more as like a company down in the States. But well, I guess they're about to get really big now, so if they aren't already. Allied Universal bought out G4S. Anyone that currently wears the G4S uniform is slated to switch over to a Allied Universal uniform around Q3, late Q3, early Q4. So good luck to any of the professionals that work for G4S. And, that's, I guess, the start of a larger and hopefully better company. I've personally worked for G4S in the past, and they've got a lot of a lot of good things going for them. Great training and professional development. So great company, and I wish the best for them. Anything you guys want to add on that?
Yeah, I was totally blown away to find that out. Having been in the industry as long as I have. I remember I haven't worked for Group 4, but I know a lot of people who have, and I have nothing but good things to say about them. But I remember back when it was Group 4 Securitas, Group 4 Falc for a very brief time.
Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day. That's how I feel when you have a 5-digit license number wearing on your vest. But it's interesting to see this because it's almost like the end of a dynasty, really.
Yeah.
Right. So
definitely. Anything you want to add there, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for G4S for a time. I will say that I was always impressed with their commitment to training. A lot of online courses, a lot of ongoing training. So I think this acquisition will really help them grow, which is very positive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One thing I hope that sticks around is G4S, at least in Canada, has an EPP program, or EPD, Elite Protection Division, with EPPs, which are Elite Protection Professionals, and the sort of training that they go into to become EPPs is pretty cool. And I'd like to see at least Allied Universal to retain that sort of level of guard. I'm sure that would probably be advantageous, especially at like active sites and sites where you want someone a little bit more qualified than just a security guard license and a first aid, which I've just come to realize. I've heard of a lot of guards that they get their standard first aid when they get their license, and then they have just never renewed it after. Kind of bothers me. Talk about a little bit sort of what I think about where the industry is going, and sort of a lot of misconceptions, which actually segues us into our next topic. Which is sort of, we're going to be talking about how the security industry is generally perceived versus what Brad, myself, and Ben have personally noticed during our time in. I'm the one with the shortest amount of time in compared to these two lovely gentlemen. I've got around 8 years. And then between Ben and Brad, probably like 60 years or something like that.
Easy there.
Back when Pinkerton was around.
Every time I hear Pinkerton or Burns, it brings back memories. I'll say that.
Well, Brad, what do you? You're one of the zero starts, for your life.
Yeah, I'm a zero start.
Yeah. So.
It's been a lovely 20 years. I'll say that. When I started in security, this was pre-PSISA, and guards were allowed to wear the dark blue uniforms, stripes on the pants. I remember a company, I won't share their name, but they very much mimicked their company crest and their uniform after Toronto Police Service. And, from a distance, it was very challenging to tell the two of them apart. Everything from their fleet vehicles to their uniforms. And my problem with this is my first job working security, I looked like the local police. I had been brought in into a management position, having come from a federal law enforcement agency. And my first job was working with Town of Ajax through a contract and patrolling municipal parks. Um, and it seemed like almost every single interaction that I had with the public, people thought I was the police. Maybe that's partially how I carry myself, having been on that side of things. But and I think a lot of it comes down to the uniforms and the vehicles of the time. Um, Having seen the PSISA come in, and I thought there was a lot of good things coming with it. Um, I know I've talked about this before, but there was a regulation that goes into training. I was very excited to see that be brought in, but unfortunately, I'm sure Ben and John are both aware it never saw the light of day. So with that said, I haven't really had a lot of. I've had interactions that I didn't like, but interactions where I was able to show people that I was confident and competent in my job. I haven't had a lot of bad situations with that. It just comes down to your basic mentality. And I'll wrap up what I'm trying to say here with no matter what your job is in this industry, and as an instructor, this is what I try to instill in people. The job comes down to two very, very simple concepts: helping people and solving problems. And that's really what we're out there to do. If you can go out there with that mindset, you can do very well. And I think it will sort of help to dispel that a lot of guards are just simply a warm body who educated, couldn't find a better job, et cetera, right? We've all heard those negative stereotypes. And
yeah, absolutely. Definitely, I find that's sort of how security is perceived in both movies and TV shows, sort of that guy that's asleep in the chair. What's that movie with Ice Cube where the cops? No, the one with the top flight security of the world, Craig, not the world. You know what I'm talking about. If you guys
I know which one you're talking about.
That movie, sort of they were just given a shirt. They didn't know what they were doing. Shirt was untucked. Yeah, something like that. I know there's gonna be someone watching this and they're like, "It's this movie." Yeah. But yeah, like that's sort of what's perceived. The security guard's always asleep or the first one getting killed in a horror movie. Which whenever I've patrolled a dark area that's super scary, that's the thing that pops in my mind. I'm like, I'm about to die. This sucks. And the stereotype I wouldn't say is entirely wrong in some aspects, but it completely negates the other side of security where there's people that actually deal with stuff because, obviously all three of us being in the security industry, we've all seen that there are jobs where you're just required to stay there, maintain a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's it. You're essentially a living pylon. And
I feel like I'm about to be like a Peter Griffin here, but what really grinds my gears? The guards are falling asleep at their posts.
Absolutely.
I get it. It's not the most exciting job, but it is what it is, unfortunately. People have to start somewhere in the industry, and those positions do exist for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will always be a need for that type of guard where they just need someone present. And you know what, that's fine. But I do find that the pride in the work you do, it doesn't matter whether whether you're doing, security at a mall where you're dealing with dynamic calls and stuff, or just watching a construction site. I find just whatever you do it well, do it to the best of your ability. Just because you don't entirely love it, maybe if that sort of those duties doesn't mean don't take it seriously and just fall asleep. That's just
absolutely. And you show people that you're capable, and there's an opportunity to show that you're able to move on to those better jobs, working at a college, working at a mall, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my first security job, I was doing patient watch, and the main challenge of that job was not falling asleep, because the person I'm watching, they're asleep. They're setting a great example of what I want to be doing. And luckily I wasn't in that for very long. The job I got after was actually very active in like sort of a residential area, but there is that other level of guard. And honestly, even though the job title is the same, the license required, or at least the basic requirement, like the security guard license and your first aid, you do require it for both, and they're technically the same job title. I find the jobs themselves are completely night and day, as opposed to staying alone and I don't know, watching Netflix, whatever, or falling asleep. You're actually out dealing with calls. For instance, malls. You deal with medicals, you deal with lost children, you deal with fights, you deal with theft, especially if it's you're working in a mall where loss prevention is working in like one of the anchor stores, like the Bay or whatnot, or Sears back in my day. And you go to assist them, parking complaints, tons of things. Honestly, the possibilities are endless, right? Even like also my favorite part of the job is definitely the public interaction, right? Even just someone coming, it's like, hi, do you know where this store is? Yeah, I do. And you sort of show them, and that level of professionalism, I think, sort of catches some people off guard too. I've noticed a few times, someone will say hi, and maybe they just went to a store where the security guard's just standing there super zoned out. And I'm like, hi, how you doing? Or have a good day. And then they're surprised that someone's actually talking to them coherently. And they're like, oh, like, hi, so it's, that's what I find is really important is, understanding that even though the job title is the same, a lot of these jobs are different, like especially some places you need your police foundations, which I still find interesting because for policing, generally it's not required, but a lot of jobs in security and maybe special constable field, you are required it. But I mean, post-secondary education I do find is beneficial for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, like there are jobs where you need to have that sort of ability and to handle stuff, the knowledge. I've taken tests to get on with a specific job, and it was actually harder than the ministry exam, which honestly I found was extremely easy.
Yeah.
And I find that's where there's that low barrier to entering the industry because of how easy it is. I think there should be more emphasis on the training, and I've worked with guards that don't even know the section 494, the powers of arrest, and of course powers of arrest aren't the most important. Making arrests is not the most important thing of the job, but if you're going to make an arrest, you better know what section under the criminal code allows you to do so, and what you're allowed to arrest for, and the sections that allow you to use force if you need to. Hopefully not, but if you need to. So if you're going to do something, know the laws and the theories and everything behind it before you do so, or else you're just going to end up being a super big liability. It's not all fun and games for sure, right? Like I've had 30 seconds of I'd say excitement dealing with an incident, followed by like 2 hours of paperwork. And I think both Ben and Brad understand what I'm talking about there, where you're sort of just beating your head after, and you're like, wow, I wish I could have just not, you had to do it, but at the same time, you're like, I wish I could have just found a way to avoid all of this because this paperwork sucks. So I think I'm just rambling on now. So Ben, take it away there.
Yeah, you guys are going on a little bit of a tangent, but that's okay. I will say that since you brought up the ministry exam, the difference between the guard exam and the PI exam I took is like night and day. I found, like you said, the guard exam fairly rudimentary, and the PI exam exponentially harder.
Oh, for sure.
Which is good because it's sort of, I would almost say it's a bit more liability and legal know-how associated with PI work, and the surveillance and all that kind of stuff carries the additional laws you need to know. So that's a big thing. And another thing I'm glad you mentioned it, John and Brad, about guards starting out at post. And I think it's really important that you're okay with paying your dues. Right. When I started out, like I worked all those sites. I did the construction sites. I did the standing in the rain, like at traffic posts. I did watching a door. I did all that kind of stuff. Right. Like one of my first surveillance gigs was sit in this car and watch this park and make sure no one goes in. Cool. Not super exciting work, but that was my first surveillance assignment, and you've got to start somewhere. So it's like you said, Brad, right? People that are, I don't get paid enough, and I want this position, and I want to be tactical, or I want to work in this mall, or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's great, but you haven't proved yourself as someone who's reliable or knowledgeable yet, right? I think putting someone into a position of like not even an intervention capable position, but a position of more responsibility without vetting them first is really dangerous. And that's when you get those guards who are zoned out because they haven't worked those other sites, and they don't know how I guess fortunate they are to be working in some of these more active places.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely, especially the guards that are, like you said, zoned out and sort of not paying attention. But at the same time, there's also the other tier of it, the complete opposite, which is also, I would find just as bad. I'd rather a guard that's zoned out and not doing anything, because that's essentially like me working alone if I had a partner like that, as opposed to an overzealous guard that thinks making arrests are the coolest thing since sliced bread, and just getting into it instead of finding solutions and ways to sometimes arrests are necessary, but I mean, always keep in mind disengaging is always it's always there, right? There's
communication.
Oh, hold on, my AirPods just died.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I was
show here. I'm like,
oh, it's really, really faint.
Pardon?
Yeah, you're very, very faint, John. So, John, to get us back on track here, you're talking about like the danger of the overzealous guard.
You cut out again.
Sorry, buddy. So I was just trying to get us back on track.
Yeah.
You were talking about the danger of an overzealous guard.
Yes. So especially there's those guards that that want to get into stuff that sort of provoke incidents, just so they can experience that cool arrest and all that sort of stuff. Those are I find those are even worse than the ones that are not willing to do anything really, because I mean, it's a liability, because if they're guarding something, someone can, I don't know, go vandalize it or steal it or whatnot, and they're not doing anything. But most of the time, I'd find that would not result in any harm to someone, as opposed to someone that's trying to instigate stuff and cause a sort of a use of force situation where someone unfortunately would get hurt or whatnot. I've seen guards pick fights where it turned into a use of force, where a bystander got bumped into or hit by accident, and it's totally the guard's fault if they're gonna try to provoke something like that. So it's really important to, whatever job you do, do your best to learn about the de-escalating, learn about de-escalation, learn about how to talk to people. Even if you're at a job that you're just bored, you want to make something of it, there's a way to go about it and a way not to. Being proactive is one thing, sort of starting stuff is another. And that's a great way to get yourself blacklisted from any of the good jobs, or the more active jobs. I find any job where you're employed, actually, I find is good, but any of the more active or more desired jobs. So that's definitely a really big thing. I'll be honest, I've made that mistake before. I've been that more overzealous guard, and you know what? Like, even though I'd like to think I've mostly fixed, I have fixed it in the way I act, but
I'm sure there's people that haven't talked to me since back then, and they probably think I'm the same type of guy. I'm sure we've seen my video where I went through some of my old selfies. That's it's not a good thing, right?
Classic.
So
Look out, world! I'm a security guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on what you're talking about being proactive too, right? There's a big difference in being proactive and being overzealous. I always encourage people to be proactive, but there's things you can do while you're out there, right? Look for deficiencies on the site, look for septet issues, broken locks, things that aren't working correctly that should work correctly. Areas where, we can make suggestions, right? If you're having problems with, say, transient individuals who, are giving you guys a hard time on the site and they need to be trespassed, work on removing them through positive means. Encourage them to go to other places as long as they're not on your property, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I'll touch about that when we get to story time. My favorite time.
Oh yeah, story time with Hansi. Woo.
Yeah.
Story time. Yeah.
So so I'll touch on that as well during my story there. So that's our main topic that we're going to be touching on today. Anything else you guys want to add before we move over to story time?
So I don't think it's a lot of people have this perception that a guard with a vest or a baton or handcuff sends the wrong message. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think it's about what you wear, but I think it's about how you carry yourself, right? Like you can be fully tacked out and still de-escalate and have good customer service skills. As long as you act like a human being and not a robot, you're pretty much set.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I do find
it's all about how you carry yourself, your body language, and how you talk to people. Quick pro tip: I see a lot of guys, they take their hands and they put them up on their vest. Think of the outside perception. You're standing there making fists.
Yeah.
Really think about it, right? In use of force, we talk about the interview stance or the basic stance. Hands somewhere in the middle. And you keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
Smile, engage people.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So let's start off with some stories.
Did you want to go first, John?
Sure. So, working in a mall, this is a small tidbit of information of, I would say, how I dealt with certain situations and sort of made what could be a negative interaction into a positive one. So I used to work at a shopping mall here in Ottawa. And it really opened my eyes to how dynamic the job is in a shopping mall. As I stated earlier, you deal with a bunch of different calls. One thing I did not expect to be dealing with is people making, lack of a better word, people doing it in their cars in the parking lots. And not like once in a while. Like this happened pretty often. I don't know. It's not exactly the first place I would have thought of going to, but to each their own. So, we dealt with a lot of those calls, and I found that depending on who you are or, how you deal with it can sort of dictate on how the whole situation, how the whole attitude and atmosphere goes. So, I had a very specific way to deal with it. I will just, for lack of just saying doing it over and over again, I'm just gonna. So the 10 code at the mall I was working at was 1023. So it's indecent act or indecent exposure, or whatever. But that's what we used at the mall. Probably not the same across the board. So I'll just refer to it as a 1023 until then for the rest of the story. So we would go to a mall. So we got calls for 1023s very often. We'd go there. I had a very specific way of handling things. I would look just enough to verify that this 1023 is happening. Aside from that, I get it. I've never done it, but people find it very uncomfortable with a security guard coming out of nowhere and now staring at you as you're performing a 1023 or trying to cover up yourself, right? I'm not trying to make it a more awkward situation than it is. No matter what I do, it's gonna be awkward, right? You just got caught by security, right? So I try not to, look back at them, and I'm like, guys, I get it. It happens. Whatever. It's not a big deal. I just ask them to leave the property for the duration of time that they decide they want to do it. I may or may not have said, hey, there's some other great places that I don't know if they have security. If you've worked in one of those places and you know exactly where I worked at and you've had a problem, it was probably because of me. So I'm sorry. I kept sending people your way. But, I made it not seem like a big deal. At the same time, I am stopping the act of occurring, and I am telling them to leave, right? But it's in a way where you're not making them overly as uncomfortable, right? I would tell them like, look, do what you got to do off property, and just come back after. If you want to go do shopping, go ahead. That's fine. Check out, Sport Check or some of the other great sporting goods stores, since they like physical activities anyways, right? So, that's fine. And there are many times where I'm walking through the mall later and I see those exact same people. I haven't trespassed them for any long. Like, I just told them to leave to do whatever. I didn't feel the need to trespass them for a month or whatever. And they'll see me and they know I knew what they were doing. And you'll get a grin and sort of like a nudge to their partner there. And that's in the end, it's kind of a funny experience, as opposed to I've dealt with other guards where they're sort of more robotic and like, yeah, dispatch is a 1023 here, like right in front of them, and sort of like, hey guys, you can't be fornicating on the property, and he's staring you down, right? And it gets really uncomfortable. And I've seen some calls where I've the person I worked with, they saw that person after, and they didn't like that person because it almost was like, I mean, I get it. I personally would not go to a parking lot, a mall parking lot to do it, but I get it. People do stuff like that. I don't think any less of them because of it. People make different decisions. Honestly, out of the bad decisions that someone could make, really not the worst decisions. So I just find it funny, really.
Yeah.
But when you come with that attitude of like, you can't be doing like sort of a like, what's wrong with you sort of attitude, it makes a negative situation. I sort of that's sort of how I find certain ways to talk to people can make a big difference. So the moral of my story is figure out a way to talk to people. One of my main approaches is try to make something seem not as big of a deal as it may be, to an extent. If someone's got a knife, I'd be like, hey, no problem, you got a knife, it's fine. There's a certain line where it's like, okay, you need to do this, stop doing this right now, and sort of switch on to a different mode, right? But it's at the same time, like, we're doing our job, but we're trying to still create positive interactions with people. So yeah, there's that. And the other moral of the story is that people do it in cars all the time in mall parking lots, apparently. So be careful. And if you think you're in a spot where you're pretty secluded, chances are there's probably a camera right above you that you didn't notice, and you're getting a really awkward call from security. So, Brad, you know what? No, Ben, give us your story.
Yeah, Brad's.
I'm actually going to tell a different story, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think I knew which story Brad was going to tell, and it's pretty hard to top there.
Yeah.
So, my story, I was working at let's just say a high risk location a high risk location with a high risk community. Let's just say we had a lot of overdoses. Then one particular overdose, I remember because it was the end of a 12-hour shift. We were off at I don't know, I'll just say like 3 a.m. for the sake of this discussion. And this call came in at like 2:57. So we're already like ready to go home, right? Keep this in mind. Like we're like, all right, sweet, good 12 hours, let's go home. And then an overdose call came in. So this is about a block and a half away. sprinting. We get there, me and my partner are in the corner, and like practically like gasping for air. We ended up helping save the guy, and it was fun. But sort of the moral of the story, guys, is you need to factor in your circumstances, right? We retired after 12 hours, right? So 2 points, you need to train. 1, fitness is important. And 2, if you're like getting an emergency call, you need to make sure you have something left in the tank to actually like help when you get there, right? It does nobody any good if you're so gassed you can't actually give medical aid to this person or
Absolutely.
or apprehend this person or whatever the case may be, right? So it's really important. Like you want to get there fast, of course, but you want to get there safely. You want to make sure you have something left in the tank when you get there.
100%. Yeah, I know you've been. Ben has runs a BDW crisis training solutions, and if you see on some of his social media, he posts some of the training he does in the morning. He's really big on doing a lot of the physical training in the morning. Sorry guys, can you hear you guys properly, or
Yeah.
I know my mic was a little iffy before. Okay, good.
That sounds great.
I sound great. Oh,
I thought so.
Great.
Great.
So yeah, like definitely you're right. I also worked at that same site as Ben at one point, and I had I'm not saying everyone needs to be chiseled, fit, and whatnot. I personally would like to be, but I'm not. I've got that. But being reasonably fit for the job you're doing is really important. I had worked with quite honestly, someone that I didn't think should work at that site. I was plopped there beyond my control, and I was partnered with this person, and I responded to a fight call. And there was a little ways away. And when I showed up there, I was a little tired. I had to run. Not in the best shape. However, my partner didn't even make it there. He was winded partway through. He had nothing left before he even showed up. I was pretty concerned because, at where we were, we're expecting, fights and stuff to, de-escalate them and to, unfortunately, sometimes have to physically sort of, pull people apart. And you need energy to do that kind of stuff, right? If you got nothing left, running is, maybe a long run, but that's only part of the battle. Then when you get there, you actually have to deal with the situation. It's not like you're just running there and you're like, cool, I made it. It's like, you got more stuff to do, right?
And another thing to add to that, John, is like, a lot of people can they're like, okay, I can run. I'm like, okay, that's great. Can you run in boots, vests, and a full duty belt?
Yeah.
That makes a difference, right?
And talk on a radio while you're doing it.
And like communicate on the radio at the same time when you're gassing out.
Yeah.
So that's what, like 15, 20 extra pounds that you're sprinting with.
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely. It's really important to sort of, train yourself physically as well for the job that you're going to be doing. I'll touch on later. I also think training mentally and, that sort of stuff,
Definitely.
That's as important. Right now we're talking about physical stuff, but absolutely. Being able to train and if there's no shame in not being fit to a level that you're happy with. I get it. It happens. I'm heavier than I want to be. I'm working on it. I got a treadmill behind me there. Do I use it? Sometimes.
You hang clothes off?
I should
use it. It's a nice treadmill. It's a nice treadmill.
But, recognizing that, where you fall behind in performance is really important. And recognizing is one of the big things. And then also, doing what you can to fix it and to sort of, make yourself, at the end of the day, you're, especially at a high risk site, there were people that relied on us to do our job properly. There was our partner that also relied on us to do our job properly. It was definitely a site where we worked in pairs, and won't get into the site too much, but it was a site where you need to work in pairs, and you need to have trust in your partner to have your back, both dealing with really high stress situations, and also, unfortunately, in the event where things did get physical and use of force had to be used. Again, of course, always a last resort. It's not something you want to do, but unfortunately, there are times where it does have to happen, and it does happen. You want your partner to be there, right? You want a partner that knows what he's doing, and to know what you're allowed to do, to know how to do it in a safe manner, and obviously, in the end of the day, you're not using force to hurt someone. You're using it to affect maybe an arrest or to defend yourself, right? So
defend someone else.
Lack of attention to that sort of thing is can be dangerous, right? I know Ben and Brad, both being use of force instructors, they both understand the importance of using certain techniques, why we don't do certain things, so, and we've seen both in the past with positional asphyxia and more recent, more nationally known events that happened more recently of what can happen when you don't follow those sorts of things, right? I'm in no way a use of force expert. I hold a current use of force certification for the job I currently do in terms of baton, handcuffs, all that sort of stuff. But I'm in no means an expert, but I do really focus on that de-escalation side of things because it's just as important.
De-escalation is pretty crucial. Can I, if I could add to your comment about no shame and being out of shape. Of course, you want to. You always want to be better, right? Like you want to be 1% better than the day before.
Yeah.
However, it's really important to have an honest, no BS like assessment of your skills and do a proper risk assessment.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you if there's a call and you need to be honest with your partner and be like, listen, dude, I don't think I can handle this safely.
Yeah.
You need to have the humility to be like, okay, maybe we'll call in additional resources, we'll call for police, we'll observe and report, whatever. Right? Like you need to and I think Brad, maybe you can speak to this too, but I find the more training I have, the less likely I am to go hands-on with people, right? Because you have
absolutely
confidence to communicate longer, and
you
know that you have the skills to manage that situation, but you don't. You get better doing risk assessments and communication, and more often than not, you don't have to go physical, which sounds weird, right? The more physical training you have, you think people would want to go physical. I feel strongly that the less training you have, the more likely you are to panic, and the more likely you are to react or respond physically in a situation that doesn't necessarily require a physical response. Does that make sense? What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd agree with that. And just sort of piggyback off of what you guys were talking about a few moments ago, in regards to being able to arrive to whatever that situation is and handle it. As a first aid CPR instructor, when I get into the physical skills component, I have a lot of students that I'll just set the timer to 2 minutes. And a lot of them think after 2 minutes, and I can see as an instructor, they're gassed and there's not much gas left in the chamber to continue pumping.
Yeah.
And I like to ask these guys, okay, how long do you guys think that was? And the answer I get from a lot of people, 5 to 10 minutes. When I tell them it's been about 2 minutes, a lot of people are absolutely floored. So it's important to, consider your physical skills, because you got to be able to arrive at the situation. If you're not able to handle the situation, you're no good to anybody. You do not want to become a casualty at whatever that situation is.
Yeah.
So, and that's really what I'm trying to get at here is you got to put your own safety here first. As Ben rightly points out, if you're not confident with whatever you're about to walk into, share that information with your partner, build that trust, build that rapport with your colleagues so that we all kind of know who's capable of what and what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it builds a very, very cohesive team.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I think it's hard for security guards generally. It's kind of a wide brush, but I'd say a good majority of us are A-type personalities, so we don't want to say, "Oh, I don't feel confident handling that situation," but it's really important to
no, I agree.
develop
Right.
that
As well,
that
yeah.
humility. Yeah,
I think you really got to get past
But
that part where
you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And this
100%.
job comes down to integrity. If you can't be honest with yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, I got to lose 20 or 30 pounds and I can't do this, that, or the other thing because of insert ailment here or insert, mental block here, whatever that issue is, share it with people.
Yeah, knowing your limitations. Like for me, I'll tell you right now, if we were all in a building and we all encountered a ghost, I will leave you both in a heartbeat. I'll be with you in any other situation. I'll back you up 100%. There's a ghost. I'm sorry. I'm running. I'll probably trip you, so you get left behind. I don't play with any of the paranormal stuff, so that's where my limitation is. So good luck. Anyways, let's get to Brad's story there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. So no, I'll just quickly piggyback off that as well. It is funny you mention that because those abandoned buildings or those buildings that are haunted, cemeteries, whatnot, they don't faze me. A company I used to work for way back.
You can patrol them. I won't.
Yes, exactly.
That was one of the
Brad
things I had to do. I patrolled cemeteries. all over Toronto and the GTA at night, during the day when they were busy, and it was just a big open field with a bunch of stones to me. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I've been in some what I think people would call very creepy churches at night.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Hospitals on the other side, that smell in the hospital gets to me, and I end up passing out one way or another. Now I have worked in healthcare in a very specific subset of healthcare. I'll get into that with my story, but I don't know what it is about some of the healthcare environment. I get that hospital smell in my head and I feel lightheaded and I'm really no good to anybody, right?
I'm personally not a fan of hospitals, so.
Yeah, no, and you know what? The guys who work hospital security, I have a lot of respect for those guys. It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let me share my story.
Yes.
So as I mentioned, I was going to change my story, but you know what? I'm going to share my original story.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going back many years. I worked at how can I describe this place without really giving it away? I worked at essentially what is a facility for people. It's a healthcare facility, but it is a facility for people who the courts have found not criminally responsible for their many crimes.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like we have people who are jaywalkers and people who create disturbances here. The facility is literally filled with murderers, rapists, pedophiles, arsonists. Some very dangerous people are inside of this facility. It's essentially a jail, so we'll call it that because that's essentially what it is. So one particular afternoon, I get asked to take this patient to what is called the Ontario Review Board. It's basically a judicial process. He wants to see if he can his privileges changed so that he can leave the property to have a cigarette. The whole property is smoke free. So I tell my supervisor, sure, no problem, off we go. I get down to the ORB with a nurse. The guy goes into his ORB meeting, the handcuffs and restraints come off, and he's convinced himself in the back of his head that, by the end of the day, he'll be able to leave the property and hang out with his friends. I appreciate the positive vibes that he had. Unfortunately, he had murdered 4 people. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the case. And he was, recently brought into the facility, so it just wasn't going to happen. But anyways, he's got the right to go before the ORB. At the very end of this, he comes out. He's very upset. And the nurse says to me, hey, don't put him in handcuffs because he's upset. Now, I know Ben's probably listening to that and going, that doesn't make any sense. Myself, as a use of force instructor, I look back and question that decision, but she was a little more familiar with this person than I was. So, he's in the hospital's custody, not mine, and she has to say so at the end of the day. Now, we pile this guy into the back of the van. It's just a plain Dodge Caravan. We're driving home back to the facility. We're driving eastbound on the 401 highway in Toronto, driving under the Center Lane Vic Park Expressway overpass. It's 6:08 p.m. It's 9 degrees outside, and Careless Whisper was playing on the radio. I had my iPhone 3G in my left hand. You might go, hey, well, those are really specific details. How can you recall that? That's PTSD for you, because what happened to me next stuck to me and stuck with me in a number of different ways. The driver, I guess, was watching him in the rear view mirror, and he says to me, hey, Brad, what's he doing back there? So I looked behind me, and I saw this guy. He had his pants pulled down around his bum. He was sitting on his left hand, and he was, we'll call it white knuckling with his right hand. We're all adults here. So I chuckled and I told the driver he's jerking his gherkin, because of all the things that this guy could be doing, that was one of the more harmless things that he could be doing. Now the driver, he was pretty upset. He didn't want to have to clean that up. So he told me to go back there and clean it up. Now, it's a little after 6. We're doing 140 kilometers eastbound on the 401. Probably not a good idea for me to take my seatbelt off and go back there, but I took my seatbelt off and went back there because I was making a poor decision. Anyways, I go back there and I'm trying to control this guy, and one thing led to another, and I felt this splat hit me on the bottom of my chin. It was all up the side of my cheek. It was all over my uniform shirt.
Oh no.
Yeah, and that was the worst thing that has ever happened to me in this job. Now, you might go, hey man, why would you share that story? Now, there's a couple things to think about here, right? You think health and safety.
Yeah.
We're in a speeding van in rush hour traffic, doing 40 kilometers over the posted speed limit because this guy really wants to get back to the building. You take your seatbelt off in those conditions, and the van comes to a complete stop. At the time, I was a little over 200 pounds. If you know the multiplication, when you look at inertia for vehicle collision, I now become a 800-pound object loose inside of the van. It's probably going to be fatal to me, and I probably have the large potential to injure other people.
Yeah.
So just remember that here in Ontario, and I have done the research in regards to other provinces. As security professionals, we have a legal right to refuse unsafe work.
Yeah.
You find yourself in a similar predicament, and you're being asked to take your seatbelt off and apprehend somebody inside of the vehicle.
Yeah.
You can say no. It's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And we don't have a duty to act per se. When
Absolutely.
it comes to, stuff like that. And I know you're completely against this, Brad, but I would definitely say looking at the situation of the person was doing, I don't get paid enough for this. If you'd like, you can contact a constable who can make around, maybe around 100 grand a year. And they can deal with it. Maybe I'll consider dealing with it the day that I become a constable, but it's not today. So
well, it's not that I'm not against it. I know this is a sort of separate discussion. It's when people say things like, hey, I don't get paid enough to keep patrolling the building all day.
No, of course.
You
Yeah.
know? I would say in any other circumstance, it's not really my job to stop that guy from doing that, because the hospital encourages their patients to be happy, positive people, and be healthy in all of those ways, including that sexual health. So
absolutely.
Who am I to say no to that, right?
Yeah, so. Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's definitely an uncomfortable situation, but they're not really hurting anyone, right? So that's
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So with
I
that
thought that
said,
you were going to say something. Sorry.
No,
you got this look on your face like you want to say something. I believe we have some questions or a question
Yeah.
that
So we got this one in. So simply put, it's I just started security in the security industry. What should I do to get the most out of the experience in the industry before I move on to policing? It's a good question.
great question.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you guys don't mind, I'll start with what I think, and then we'll all go with that. I'm sure my answer won't be the most complete one, but so I would recommend, in my professional opinion, do as much training as you can on skills that I find would transfer over to policing, if you will. I think it's really important to get a certain amount of experience and work certain jobs within the time you're doing security. So, for instance, by skills, I'm not talking about like use of force and handcuffing and all that stuff, because while it can help knowing that sort of stuff, sometimes police agencies train differently. You don't want to get into maybe bad habits or habits that are not okay with them. And you definitely don't want to go in with the mindset of like, I did security, I know this. You don't need to teach me, that's bad. But I'm more talking about the way you talk to people, de-escalating. That's gonna transfer over to policing. Myself being a person that is not a police officer, but trust me, it's good advice, bro. So stuff like that. I would recommend working in places where you're going to deal with high call, various call volumes. So again, I seem to really like malls. Apparently, working in a mall, you're dealing with the public. You're helping people in little ways. You're helping people in big ways also. You're dealing with a lot of different things, and doing courses and training that can transfer over, and doing that, taking that sort of experience and doing jobs where you get to deal with public and you get to deal with different situations that not per se transfer over to policing, but put you in a comfort, maybe out of your comfort zone, similar in a way that you were to get into policing. So, like for instance, loss prevention, a job, something that you would do quite a bit is actually apprehending for theft. So for someone who might have limited experience making arrests, that's a good way to sort of get into that, knowing what you're going to do, learning the rights to counsel, stuff like that, and sort of getting out of that comfort zone, because making arrests is uncomfortable, no matter how you put it. No one's going to be happy about it. You might not be happy about having to make the arrest. The person that's being arrested is definitely not going to be happy. I don't remember the last person's like, arrest me. Actually, no, I have heard that before. But not genuinely want to be arrested, and as you're being arrested, and there's doing paperwork. There's certain paperwork. There's you have to learn how to write reports, and there's certain ways you have to articulate things. So that's also a really important thing, being able to articulate what you're doing, and dealing with that sort of process, I think, would really help. And don't get into that. How do I say? There's some people that, while they're in security, they like to find ways to feel like they're more than security. Essentially, there's security guards and there's rent-a-cops. They're different, but they have the same job title. Security guards, they do their job. They're security guards. It's what they act like, because that's what they are. Then there's quote-unquote rent-a-cops, who are security guards that are just trying to escalate things to a point where they feel like police officers or peace officers, whatever, something more than what they are. And it's something that I've personally seen. I know people currently who I don't associate with that act like that. I've known people that act like that, and it makes us all look bad. Stay clear from I'm, in my opinion, my personal opinion, stay away from those kind of people. They're not going to get you anywhere, and that's all I have. All right, so that's pretty much it. So, Brad, do you have anything to add to that? The question there, getting.
So great question. Having been on the law enforcement side of things, I get that question a lot. Like, hey, I'm working security. What can I do to springboard myself into the policing side? Now, I'm going to be honest. My answer is going to be a little bit more on the unpopular side. Don't get me wrong. Security is a good job. I have made nearly a career out of it. There are a lot of other jobs out there that look great on a resume as well. So I'll throw that out there. I will say, and I know some people are not going to be happy to hear this, I would not encourage anybody to take police foundations unless they're really specific about getting into, say, a special constable service or working as a peace officer somewhere else. You want to do something that's going to set you aside from all of the other candidates. And, 90% of these candidates are going to have police foundations. So I always tell people, do something that's going to set you aside, as well as maybe set you up for something else should policing not work out for you. I have a friend who she started a career as an accountant, wanted to be a police officer. She got her CPA, and a few years later, she decided to try her hand at it. She got on with Durham Regional Police, and now she's a financial crime investigator with Durham Regional Police because of her background.
Sounds really cool, actually.
I have a friend who was in the Navy. He brought his military career in, and now he works with the Marine Unit with Toronto Police. So, use your background to leverage those positions. Now, that said, looking at the security side of things, NVCI through the Crisis Prevention Institute, fantastic program. I highly recommend it. It's got a great theory portion. The hands-on portion is a little bit laughable myself, to be honest. I'm sure Ben would agree with that, but the theory is bang on. Harm reduction programs, again, they look great. And then anything you can do to get yourself involved in the community, volunteer. And if you're going to volunteer somewhere, be genuine about where you're going to volunteer. I've worked with the Toronto Police as an auxiliary police officer for a number of years, and I've encountered a lot of people that join the program simply looking to get hired, and they're not very genuine about being there for the right reasons to help the community. So, if you're looking at things like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, again, it's great, or Scouts Canada or cadets. Stick with those programs. Once you get hired, you're still a member of the community, and it still looks great on your resume. Just getting hired is the beginning of that career, right? You want to look into prospective positions down the road, whether those are supervisory leadership positions, moving up into being a sergeant or a detective, or moving into specific investigative roles or specialized operations, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback on that, yeah, for sure. I mean, as much as I don't regret getting into security, at the time when I joined, it was known as sort of that stepping stone of what you want to get into policing. I think policing has evolved quite a bit since. I only started security back in 2012, about 8 years ago. But think back on it now, I think getting into social work would probably be my top.
Absolutely,
pick.
Hands down, agree with that.
Yeah, definitely working in harm reduction. With the way the world's going, it's very important to have people, officers that have that sort of that outlook on how to deal with situations like that. Policing's evolved, so security. So I've been spending so much time working on learning about harm reduction also, and that sort of stuff. And like you were saying, Brad, like volunteering is very important. I know Ottawa Police here really look for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you want to take courses that are going to benefit you down the road, right? Especially like nowadays, like mental health first aid, applied suicide intervention skills training, mental health awareness, and like trauma-informed care is another really good one.
Yeah.
All this knowledge is going to be good to transfer to policing.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting that knowledge and getting used to dealing with people that are suffering from mental health crisis and people who use drugs and
for sure. I even know
whatever the case may be, right? So
yeah, I even know a few guys that actually did the paramedic program. and they hold their valid certification, and they consider getting into paramedicine, but they end up getting into policing. But you think about it, you get into policing and they have an applicant that is essentially paramedic, just not hired on by a service. That's a pretty good thing to have, in my opinion.
Tactical medic.
I'm not a police
No,
recruiter.
absolutely.
So yeah, definitely, focusing on medical stuff for sure. You get your EMR, your first responder is very, you as a police officer, you're gonna be dealing with medicals. It happens, right? You're gonna be first on scene and stuff. You can call an ambulance, but you're still first on scene until an ambulance arrives and all that. So same with security. You're gonna be dealing with medicals and stuff. So being not just trained and certified, at least in Ontario, as you're supposed to be, at least with standard first aid, but to be comfortable and learning, doing, learning all your, all your steps of a call and dealing with sort of, that sort of situation. It's really important to be comfortable in that regard. So pretty much, I guess what we're all saying.
Yeah.
Do a lot of training, focus on what courses that would actually help transfer into policing and gain valuable experience with the time that you're in security, if you're using it as a step.
Yeah.
I'm not saying security is the wrong way, but it's definitely not the only way. And I think there are better ways, but security is still a way, just less effective as it used to be. It's not how it used to be. So next we got on the agenda is recommended training and gear. I've got two giant fans of gear and training with me. So this will be interesting.
No.
Who wants to start?
Yeah, I'll go ahead really quick.
Yeah.
So guys, whether you work as a concierge or in a mall or in a tactical setting, you're never gonna go wrong with a good flashlight. So for me, I like my Streamlight ProTac. It's small, so it can be you don't need a lot of space on your belt or even on your regular belt. It's got that end cap push button. The only downside I would say is the 123A batteries get very expensive, especially if you're working night shift and you're consistently using the 1,000 lumens.
Yeah, Brad and I will touch on that.
The other option, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on batteries, is any of the ASP flashlights, because they're, sorry, let me just find the charging port here, because they're rechargeable.
Yeah.
The downside with the ASP is they're a bit more you kind of have to mess with the settings a bit more versus the ProTac, which is just the end cap. So I just go from there. So my advice is get a good flashlight.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. When I started security, I had the crappiest little flashlight, and very quickly I realized, I'd be with partners who invested in proper lights. I couldn't see anything that they were seeing. They're like, "Oh, look at that down there," and I'm just like, "Can you shine your light that way? I don't see it." Right? And as Ben was saying, with CR123 batteries, they get really expensive. Last year, I picked up a Olight M2R Warrior. Brad's a bit more of a flashlight guy than I am, so I have to reading this red texture. But main reason I got it is because it's rechargeable. So, it's at the end of a shift, you put on the charger, and I think I've saved quite a bit of money not draining my entire paycheck on CR123 batteries. So
There it is.
The benefit of working day shift is I don't often have to use my light. So
yeah, to be fair, I haven't had to charge this in a bit. I've been blessed with some day shifts for now. So
very nice.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of flashlights, this is something that I've been playing with since October. It looks like a little bit of a weird flashlight. This is Streamlight's new take on the Stinger. So if you're familiar with the Stinger line. It is a little bit of a larger, more tactical light. You see it is a little bit bigger than my hand. But I absolutely love the grip on this guy. It's got 2 switches. We have a switch up here on the top and a switch on the tail cap, as well as a very, very simple to use high, medium, and low toggle switch. Now, context is important. You want to think tactical at times. There are approaches where you want to go in with a low lumen. There are times you want to go right into high. And with a lot of these, especially with O-Light, you've got to, tap the back so many times to get into the right setting. And
Yeah.
it's a huge pain in the butt. This is great. I can go from low to high in just a quick flip of a switch without any thought. It's great.
That's right.
And again, rechargeable, comes with a recharger, comes with a car pack as well. So
Yeah.
Streamlight, guys. I will say, and I know Ben and John will agree with me, don't go and buy something cheap from Canadian Tire, the dollar store, or whatnot.
You get what you pay for sure.
You get what you pay for, okay? And if you're gonna go out and buy gear and invest in something, invest in a proper flashlight at the very, very least. This is a tool that can save your life. Think safety at the end of the day.
You can't protect yourself from what you can't see, right?
Absolutely.
Like ghosts.
Like ghosts.
That way I
Yes,
can
exactly.
check what I'm running away from.
Yes,
You guys
got it, yeah.
And you know what? I'll share and I'll keep this very brief. Many, many, many years ago, I worked security at we'll call it a low-income government housing building in a really bad neighborhood in Toronto. I was in the underground garage investigating a very unsettling sound, and the power of the building went out, and I had a really garbage flashlight to get me out of that situation. Even the backup power didn't come on. So, invest in something that's going to keep you safe and keep other people safe as well. So
absolutely, 100%.
Now, I believe somebody else has a second piece of gear.
Yeah, I do. Another thing nice about flashlights is whether you're in the, like I said, the duties security where you're dealing with a bunch of different incidents, or if you're doing a construction site overnight, a flashlight across the board on no matter what your duties is important. Even if you're working at an office building, power outages happen, right? So it's important to have that. And so yeah, I've got 2 pieces of gear. I'm not going to talk too much about them, but one's going to be a use of force item, Smith & Wesson M&P Model 100M lever lock handcuffs. I particularly love these. I would highly recommend anyone to, as you know, at least in Ontario, your handcuffs are required to be issued to you by your employer. So if you're someone that has the power to, choose the type of gear that the employer will issue you, I would highly recommend looking at these. Again, this is just my own personal opinion. I've personally used these for many arrests. Don't worry, these have been sanitized before I touch these because, gross. I love them. So obviously they operate like regular handcuffs, except one thing you'll notice is there's a little lever at the bottom here. In order to double lock it, you don't have to use the end of your handcuff key. You actually just pull up this little lever. So we'll give a quick demonstration. So it's not double locked. I close it, and then this little lever, you pull up, and it's double locked. I've had a few people question whether if you drop them or if it's easy to accidentally, double lock them. In the years I've used these cuffs, I have never once double locked them by accident or in a way that was unintentional. The lever locks are very handy. However, they do require some deliberate strength. They don't just, like this won't do it. You have to actually pull back in order for them to double lock. So unless you have the Hulk throw your cuffs onto the ground with that level of force, maybe then they'll double lock. But I have personally not dealt with the Hulk while working security yet. So and in terms of undoing the double lock, it's the exact same as a regular handcuff. So you turn it outwards the opposite way that you'd unlock the cuffs, and then you turn it back inwards, just like a regular set of cuffs to unlock them. So that's the first piece of gear. I really like them. I find they're very convenient, especially in a loss prevention setting where maybe your handcuff key is not on your vest or somewhere that's as accessible. I know as LPOs, sometimes you'll keep your handcuff key in your pocket. If you're arresting someone and you're cuffing them, obviously it's very important to double lock the cuffs so they don't tighten up on someone. It's a very quick way. You click, and then you just pop these two parts up, and they're double locked. So there's no digging around for the key. I find them very, very convenient. I have a pair of nickel ones too, but I have black ones because there's that little part of me that likes to be tactical once in a while. And the last piece of gear, very important. You're going to see a lot of guards starting to carry these simply because they see the police carrying them. Tactical tourniquets. Do I think everyone should be carrying them? For the most part, actually, yes. But without training, this can be very dangerous. You need to know how to use these in order to properly use them. I've seen guards carry them just because they've seen police carry them. I'm sure you've seen like some police services. They've got this here is an 1110 case, but some police services just have a little pouch that just says P on it, and they see the police carry them, so I'm going to carry them too, apparently. So it's very important.
Funny enough, you've got 3 like stop the bleed instructors, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, all 3 of us are stop.
So yes, I'm a stop the bleed instructor. So is Ben. So is Brad. It's not an expensive course. Some courses are actually offered for free as well. It's essentially an advanced hemorrhage control course on how to stop bleeding and prevent yourself from dying, and how to actually properly use these tourniquets, which is very important because this could actually cause some harm if you don't know how to use it properly. Or it could also just be ineffective. If you don't know how to properly apply a tourniquet, what's the point? Like, small little things where I see people just carry these like this. I mean,
you know what really grinds my gears?
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Just the point, like, okay, you want to carry like this, that's your prerogative, even if you've got the training. But let me tell you right now, so when you're putting this on, time is a factor. And in order to move the windlass, you actually need to have that little sucker out of the way so you can turn it. So especially when it comes to being in a stressful situation like that, fine motor skills tend to be one of the first things to go. So this whole little, I'm going to move this little Velcro here, might not be as easy as you think as I'm doing right now. In terms of putting the Velcro on after, yeah, you should do it. You should write the time. But the important part is that you're tightening the tourniquet and securing the windlass. That's what's going to save your life. So if you happen to not have it over after, I mean, you should, but things happen, right? So if everyone, pardon?
Yeah, make sure you guys get training. Pro tip: it doesn't go around the neck.
It does not. No.
Same with an old last bandage.
And
yes.
the Stop the Bleed course doesn't just teach how to use these tourniquets, but it also teaches how to stop other forms of bleeding and in different areas and through very different methods. So I would highly recommend anyone go out and get a tourniquet if your employer allows it, which I really personally think they should, especially in any mall setting. Unfortunately, things happen, and it doesn't have to be a violent thing. I don't know, construction site, and some guy falls, sorry, it might be graphic, rebar through the leg or something, bleeding out. Tourniquet. Stabs, obviously, tourniquet, gunshots, all that stuff. Amputations, tourniquet, right? So that's one thing it's for. But get the training for it. There's tons of providers. It's, in my opinion, it's irresponsible not to get the training. So that's all I really have to say about that. I think Brad has a soft T tourniquet.
I do. And I'm just going to sort of piggyback off of what you're mentioning there. There are a few different tourniquets out there that you can get. So there's something out there called the Tactical Combat Casualty Care Committee. Now, they're not the end-all, say-all authority of what tourniquet you should go buy. There are a lot of tourniquets out there.
Yeah.
My understanding is they only recommend the CAT, which Jonathan has here, and the SOFTT. I've taken mine out of its 1110 case just to sort of open it up and show you. It's very much the same idea. I like this a little bit better, not to poo-poo all over the CAT. The material here is a little more dense, a little stronger, and holds up to UV rays a little bit better. You have a steel windlass. I've just found this, it's a little easier to apply than the CAT. CAT's a great tourniquet. I have them all over my office here, and I do carry them on duty as well.
Yeah.
But if you're going to buy a tourniquet, make sure you're buying it from a legitimate, reputable retailer. Do not buy these off of Amazon. There are many videos out there, and I'll see if I can link one here to the Facebook page in another discussion.
Yeah,
but I know an organization here in Canada, I believe it's CTOMS, they did a video where they had bought, I believe it's 21 of these CAT tourniquets from Amazon, and I think 18 of them failed, either through the windlass breaking in two, or the strap holding the windlass to the tourniquet failed.
Yeah. Another thing. So yeah, I've seen videos, photos of the windlass on or as Brad says, windlass, bending or breaking on a fake CAT tourniquet. Another thing about these is there's actually an internal structure inside that helps actually keep it cinched. You don't really notice it unless you're actually playing around with it and spend way too much time staring at a tourniquet like I have for some reason. But
and that's, I like the CAT better for that. It's a lot easier to stage and set up than this guy.
Yeah,
when it comes out of the holster, this is very sloppy.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to put on, but that is much easier to set up.
Yeah, and they're both great tourniquets. I don't recommend one over the other. My personal preference is just the CAT. I own two of them. I've had a softie. I don't have anything against it. I just prefer the CAT, so that's what I carry.
Sorry, go ahead.
So if you're gonna get them, don't cheap out on this. get a proper one. Like I know
go to CTOMS. It's a Canadian retailer. They sell the CAT. They sell the SOFTT.
Yeah.
Quick, very brief story here. When the OPP a few years ago decided to employ the tourniquets to all of their frontline officers province-wide, they made the mistake of buying them from Amazon. Don't follow in their footsteps. And they found out, fortunately, through the training, when these devices were failing and weren't working, and they were able to pull them all in and get the situation resolved. But it really does go to show you how authentic looking some of these counterfeits can be.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I've got the list here of the TCCC guidelines, like Brad mentioned. So you've got the CAT, the rationing medical tourniquet, the RMT, T, soft T, tactical mechanical tourniquet, and a couple others. But really, guys, the most common ones you're gonna experience and get trained are the soft T and the CAT. Soft T wide, actually, in the CAT. So those are the ones you sort of want to focus on.
Yeah. So I mean, there are tons of different places. Honestly, I bought mine from Fundy Tactical. If you live in the Vaughan area, the Ottawa area, Halifax area, or I think Montreal, Laval area, they've got locations there. That's where I went personally. I like shopping online, but I'm also a really impatient person, so I just like to buy stuff right away. Impulse buying, right? But yeah, so it's really important. If there's certain gear, I understand some people maybe they'll cheap out on pants a little, which I mean I wouldn't personally. It's nothing's worse than having your pants tearing on you, but there's certain gear that I think it's completely inexcusable to cheap out on, especially when the failure of that piece of gear can result in the loss of your life or whoever you're trying to save. But I find, especially in the security industry, there's not much of a emphasis on dealing with medical situations, and I think that's a bit of a problem.
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely.
Been too many employers that I've personally worked for that didn't even ask to see if I have a first aid. Of course, I hold a first aid certification, but it's not at the forefront. They're like, "Do you have your security guard license?" Yes, I have the license for that really easy test I did back in 2012 and pay a certain amount every 2 years, right? At least for Ontario. But it's the thing is security are pretty much everywhere, right? Grocery stores, malls, government buildings, construction sites, right? They're going to be there. I personally wouldn't call them first responders, but they are there for a lot of events that can happen, right? Medicals. So if you properly equip yourself and train yourself, that's another thing. Just because you saw something done doesn't mean go ahead and try it, right? You have to get the proper training, right? It's important to focus on that sort of stuff, right? Dealing like, okay, if this were to happen, how am I supposed to deal with it? How can I prepare myself to help others in that sort of situation? I've done everything from like de-escalation courses to like bomb threat awareness courses. So two different ends of the spectrum, right? Even some like more like I would say low risk courses, right? Just how to talk to people, sort of stuff like that. So you have to
Customer service, right?
absolutely, and that's really important. That's for the most part, that's what you're going to be doing the most. Actually, is the customer service aspect, right? And it's important to be a well-rounded guard. This is actually going to go back to answering that question that the guard was that we got in is to learn to be a well-rounded guard, right? You want to be a police officer? That's fine. You're a security guard right now. So while you're a security guard, do the best you can to be the best security guard you can be. So learn to do, be nice to people, learn how to use force effectively if you need to, learn how to de-escalate, learn how to deal with medicals, be exactly who you'd want to hire if you were to look for people to essentially protect your property, the people who are on your property, the staff, and yourself. So you want friendly people, you want people with good attitude, all that sort of stuff, right? Trustworthy people, that's a big thing too. So I think if you follow those steps and sort of be a well-rounded and not like me where I gained weight and got well-rounded in a different way, but it is a shape. Yeah, I'm in shape. Yeah, but if you work on being a well-rounded guard and a well-rounded individual, and then I think you can make the security industry while you're in it beneficial for you, and then eventually move up to policing. Is there anything anyone else wants to add before we close?
I have a quick last piece of gear.
Sure thing. We've got about 9 minutes and 53 seconds left. Yeah, not a problem.
So I know a lot of guards who are involved in things like working, making arrests, working in the healthcare sector where you have to go hands-on. Gloves are absolutely key.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people, and just to be honest, making poor decisions when it comes to making their glove decision, right? I'm not going to try to throw in any specific brands, but if you're buying gloves that are specifically armored for the fingertips, I'll use turtle skin as an example. Turtle skin are okay gloves for the correctional environment where your job is to dive into pockets all day. I would rather see people, and highly suggest to you, if your job is to work out in the field, buy a pair of Hatch Frisk Masters. A lot of those, turtle skin, for example, they have Kevlar tipped fingers. The rest of the glove is just nylon cordura and canvas and neoprene, right? So you have literally little to no protection on the palm, the back of the hand, and wherever. If you're searching somebody's pockets, the Frisk Master is going to protect your whole hand, not just the fingertips. These are lined with Spectra, which in fact is superior to Kevlar. And I think they do a great job for keeping me safe. I've had these for years. Now, I know people are thinking too, leather, you want to be concerned about bloodborne pathogens. Absolutely agree. Put high quality nitrile gloves over top of these if you're working in healthcare. Problem solved.
Another important thing, don't stick your hands where you can't see. Needles can be in the most random
Absolutely
places.
that.
I've seen it,
learned to,
and even every search I've done for an arrest, I've asked if you've had it. Do you have anything sharp on you that stick me, stab me, poke me? Any weapons? Any needles? If they say yes, are they capped, uncapped? Where are they? And the amount of times I've had people forget that they've got uncapped needles, and honestly, internally, it makes me very angry when that happens, because the fact that they weren't truthful is I could have got poked and got infected with whatever that needle may have had. So that's a really serious thing. Take your times with your searches.
Yeah.
Quick thing.
There's
Those shows where they're just sort of going down the leg, right? It's just take your time. So that's really important.
Quick pro tip with searches: grab the material outside of the pocket and slowly pull the pocket inside out. Whatever items are in there, let them fall to the ground.
Yeah.
That way you're not handling them. You have no idea what might be all over that. It might be covered and caked with various chemicals that you may have an allergic reaction to, or may go into a poisoning situation with I don't know, any kind of opioid that might be on there.
Oh yeah.
Right? Think your PPE, guys. We're security professionals.
Yeah.
Stay within that, right? And with that being said, there's no shame in being a security professional. Absolutely none. This is an honorable job. We are out there helping people and assisting the public every day, right? We're here to help you guys in any way we can, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So,
absolutely. And I think with that, we're going to close out our first episode of chatting with us there. It's been a pleasure to talk to answer your questions and sort of, talk about what we can to sort of help you succeed within your time in the security industry. Some people are here as a long-term career. Some people see it as a stepping stone.
Yep.
And that's absolutely fine. So, we're going to close this out. I know this is a bit of a long video. That's kind of the format we're going for, is a bit of a talking sort of stuff. I guess me sort of rambling. It happens. That's how I am in person too. So it shouldn't be a surprise to any of these two guys here. We do welcome any questions that you want us to answer on here. Email us. I'm going to give you the email in a second. Along with that, any topics that you'd like for us to talk about, we can do that. If there's a story you want, or any questions, if you want our personal advice on things, feel free to ask. If there's a story that you want shared that you think would benefit our viewers, by all means, just know that we're not going to mention any company names or any site names or any personal names, just because, we know there's going to be bad companies out there. We're not there to name them. That's not what we're here to do. Our job is to what we're trying to do is help the individuals in the security industry excel in what they're doing. So if you have any questions or anything you want to add to us, you can email us at cspnconnect@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Of course, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, if you're watching this on the Facebook page, just know we also have a Facebook group called CSPN, Canadian Security Professional Network. Right now we've got about 400, a little over 400 members, right, Brad?
411.
It's going strong. We always encourage, discussions, posting. If you have questions, I love it when people engage. We have some members that love asking questions, and I absolutely love it. I love seeing people engage and sort of, exchange information and ideas. But all three of us here on the show right now all live in Ontario. So I don't know about the other two, but I personally have only had experience of working security in Ontario. So I'd love to learn about, sort of different laws in different provinces. I know, like, for instance, Alberta allows badges. And
dark colored shirts.
Pardon?
Alberta allows dark colored shirts.
Yes, that too, which I personally would like. They're look a little harder to get dirty. And like for badges, I'm on the fence on my opinion there. I've voiced it in the group, but I think in certain scenarios that they are, necessary. Others not so much. So, but yeah, so we would love to have those kind of discussions. join the group if you're not already part of the group. We have sort of discussions like this where you can actually message us directly, immediately, and all that all the time. So we appreciate that. And is there anything else you want to add before we close out in about 3 minutes?
No, looking forward to doing this again. This was a fantastic experience. And, just like Jonathan said, we're here to help you guys. So if you have any questions, I mean, don't hesitate to PM any one of us, or shoot an email to that general inbox. And, we'll point you to the right person if we can't help you ourselves, and hopefully go from there.
Yeah, and we do plan on doing this at least once a month, an episode. Honestly, a lot of our schedules are different, so it can be a little bit of a pain to get us all together. We don't have our other two admins on right now, so it sort of shows how we are all over the place sometimes, and that's how life is. So yeah, if you have any questions, cspnconnect@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And so yeah, we're gonna be doing about once a month, right? And we look forward to talking with you guys soon. All right.
All right.
Thank you,
Any
everyone.
last words, Ben?
Okay, all good. All right. See you, everyone. And have yourselves a good night.